pretty simple. I win.
Hello, guys, and welcome in. And what did we watch last night? Hope you stayed up for the entire game. It was not a great shooting night for the Hoosiers. We're going to talk about the stats. We're going to talk about everything that happened. But this was just one game. To me, I mean, what did you think of the game, for one? It was just one of those games where you're like, where Arenas had the night of his life as a freshman, only starting in his 5th game. I don't think we saw his parents enough or heard enough about the good graces heading Arenas' way. But it was just one of those weird kind of games where you're like, wow, everything seems to be going against Indiana. Everything seems to be going USC's way. And then that being said, even with all of that crap happening, Indiana really had a chance to get within one possession in the end of the game and get something going. But I mean, they shot the ball like complete garbage in this game and had a lot of shots rattled down and down in and then pop out of the basket. And that can really get in your head sometimes. Thank you all for being here. I don't know. It seems like someone pays them to lose. Maybe. I mean, are you suggesting Matt Painter is paying them to lose? But or who's paying them to lose? And Scout, I'm with you. They can't win them all. They looked flat. I didn't think like they didn't look like they lacked intensity. I didn't think like they looked like they were just overall gassed or not playing with intensity. But but there was, whether it was a flatness or it was just a tiredness. I don't know how tired you have to be. I mean, do you remember being like 22 years old? I don't know how tired you'd be 2 days after playing a basketball game. I mean, I never really felt tired the next day after doing anything when I was 22 years old. So, but you know, another road game out there at USC. And you know, the other guy in this game that kind of, well, we had some good and we had bad. We had a flip again because Reed Bailey did not look great in this game. You know, I mentioned it in the video yesterday. I thought, you know, their big dude, he's 6'10", 232. I thought, is this a matchup that Reed Bailey can get one over on this guy? And apparently, no, he cannot. He had some drives that just caused some really bad transition plays. But I do want to mention this, the good of Sam Alexis. He, and I've talked about it on the show, how he's got to get some better moves around the basket. He's got to get a drop step or something. And he actually used the drop step Sam Alexis did in this game. But, and that's what we got out of the big guys in this game. A little bit there. Let's see what they ended up with on the stat line. Reed Bailey ended up 4 of 5 on free throws, 1 block, 2 turnovers, and 2 of 6 on field goals. This was a dismal scoring game for everybody. Besides Lamar Wilkerson, is like nobody really scored that well in this game. And we're going to talk about the stats right now. Let's get into it because, you know, we got Wilkerson 5 of 12 on 3-pointers, 6 of 6 for the free throw line, and had 3 steals in the game and 1 block. He's been doing a better job too of getting into the lane, driving the ball when, like, knowing where to take his chances to drive, and he's become a better finisher. Wilkerson has as the years went on. I think he's just getting more used to what it really takes to play in the Big Ten. And I think at this point he's comfortable with his position. So, you know, he ends up 11 of 20 on field goals. And he was the only bright spot for the Hoosiers really in this game, because we look at the other dudes. I mean, Sam Alexis, and I mentioned him, 4 of 4 on field goals. He only played 21 minutes in this game, and Alexis ended up with how many 8 points. But where our struggles were, Nick Dorn and Tucker DeVries both went. Nick Dorn was 2 of 12. He shot all 3-pointers. He was 2 of 12 on field goals and 3-pointers. Not a great night for Nick Dorn. and that's gonna kill Indiana when he's not able to shoot the ball well. But then you pile that on top of Tucker DeVries being 1 of 8 on three-pointers and 1 of 9 from the field. That is gonna get you beat almost every time. I mean, those 2 dudes combined to hit 3 shots to combine for 3 of 20. So they were, what is that, like 15%? So that is not good. Tayton Connerway made his valiant return in this game, ended up with 7 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists on 3 of 6 shooting. And how many minutes did he play in this game? But overall, Indiana, just a game on the road where it was just a very, very frustrating game to watch. I watched the rest of the second half this morning because I was trying to keep my eyeballs open during this game, like trying to stay awake last night. And I got to a certain point where I just fell asleep. And I watched the rest of it this morning at like 4 a.m. But uh, this was one where Indiana, if they were able to pull this out, it would have been a great road sweep. Now you got 8 games left and you come back home and it really puts a lot of pressure on some of your other games coming up here because you got Oregon and Wisconsin coming in. Let me just pull this up here so I got it all in front of me. But yeah, Wisconsin Saturday at noon, and then Oregon Monday at 8:30. And then we play Sunday at Illinois, and then February 20th at Purdue. So these 2 home games are like super important now, considering where they're at. And where do you think? Leave your comments down below. I mean, you think Indiana's still headed for the tournament? I do. I think Indiana is headed for the tournament. If we look down this list of games, so we got Minnesota and then at Ohio State to close out the season. Michigan State at home will be a huge game. If they could get that victory, would be one that they would be able to steal. And then I mentioned it yesterday, the games at Illinois, at Purdue, Michigan State at home. Those are going to be the hardest games we have. But Uwe Blob had more talent than Todd Lindemann. That's true. Yeah. They were in a toss up for the softest hands. I also gave up 2.5 hours of my life. Yes. It was not a great game to watch. Even when I rewatched it and didn't know what the final score was. And we this is a game where you kind of look at it and you go, USC, they don't have Rodney Rice. And then, Baker Lazard, he went out of the game. When was that? Early in the second half, whenever he went out of the game. But you sit there and you think, wow, Indiana, they have such an opportunity here. They don't have 2 of their best players. And then USC just has a guy that just starts making shots. I thought some of the drives he had late, Arenas, were just prayers. I thought, oh my gosh, like this is the kind of game where this guy's having the game of his life, and it's just really hard to stop somebody when they're playing a freshman and he's all of a sudden having the game of his life. And we just had no kind of defense. And some of them were prayers. I mean, one of his drives late, I thought he was really just falling into the basket, threw up a prayer. But it is what it is. Indiana, they made a good effort at the end of the game to really fight and claw right back into the game. And Tayton Connerway missing that free throw was huge down the stretch. That was where they could have got it within a possession or so right there. But, this is one that to me, it's not that big of a loss. It's one that I really thought Indiana was going to win this game because I thought USC is lifeless. We got the chance to see, what's his nuts, complain like he does the entire time. And he does. Boy, he spends the majority of his time just complaining about every single little call everywhere on the court. It is super annoying. Um, that place that they play in seems like a very generic, very, to me, like, easy place to play, the Galen Center. Like, it doesn't have a bunch of character or, um you heard some chants from the USC crowd in there. You didn't have, like, IU chants like you did at Pauley Pavilion, but yeah, it's a tough loss for the Hoosiers. I mean, I don't really know what to think of this one. I really thought they were gonna get it done in this game and move on and get 4 in a row and then walk into this stretch. I think this is a minor setback for this team. I think they get right back on it and beat Wisconsin, and then you can kind of get this in the rearview mirror. Now, if you come out in the game against Wisconsin or these next home games and you lose uh, some of these games, then you could definitely tarnish your chances of being able to get into the tournament. So every single game for Indiana down this stretch of February to we're just about a month away, which is unbelievable. So you got Wisconsin and Oregon at home. Then you go to Illinois, at Purdue. Then you got Northwestern at home, Michigan State at home, Minnesota at home. 3 games in a row at home. So, and the Michigan State game is huge. I do view that, like, if they were gonna steal one game, it would be that Michigan State game to help solidify their chances to get into the tournament. I mean, if you want to win one at home that's going to, and Michigan State has not played as good. They're one team, I always view the Big Ten season. There are always like 2 seasons. You always have like the first 10 games where everyone's kind of trying to figure out where everybody's at. Now, the second half of it, you really see that certain teams have kind of separated themselves. Illinois, Nebraska, and I'm missing teams, but we can see that. Let me look up the standings. But my point is, Michigan State has not looked as good recently. Michigan State and Purdue, primarily, those 2 teams were, I would say, locked into the top 4. Michigan, yes, Michigan's the top. Those teams were like a month or 2 ago. You'd say Michigan and State and Purdue were like in the very top. Um, Standings. And sorry, there's a lot of dead air on this show today. Michigan, Illinois, Nebraska, Michigan State. Okay, those guys are in the top. What I've been kind of seeing is like, Michigan State loses another game or Purdue loses another game. Wisconsin couldn't jockey their way into the top thing, but Purdue and Wisconsin are kind of like just on that last next tier in between. But USC now moves ahead of Indiana in because the tiebreaker, I guess, and then Ohio State 6-5. All of these teams, every single game is going to be huge down the stretch. We know that Ohio State is not that great, so they should be able to beat Ohio State. Wisconsin, you just got to cover it. They got some tall guys that can shoot the ball from the 3-point line, and you got to cover those guys. They don't love to get all physical inside, um, but we're just gonna see how this is gonna play out. But not too much else to say about that game last night. It was such a late night game. It was hard to get even excited for it by the time you waited that long. By the time it came on at 10 o'clock, I mean, you just kind of like it just it affects the fans too. Trust me. Take a break out there today, fans. It's but yeah, it's yeah, lose to Wisconsin and DeVries can do his portal planning in early March. Yeah, that's right. That's yeah, this next game you cannot lose. The home games are going to be critical, and winning like one or 2 other road games is going to be critical. But I really hate to always be in a game like this to act like it just doesn't matter, but it did seem like this game did not matter to anybody. But Indiana, they're gonna lace it up on Saturday, and then they got to get it done. These noon tip offs at home, at least during the Mike Woodson era, uh, they could be very skeptical. Sometimes these noon tip offs, you got to get your team ready. You got to be ready at noon at Assembly Hall. So DeVries has got to get them ready. And until next time, stay classy out there, Hoosier fans.